You are not allowed to eat any motherfucking pumpkin pie or anything good from
Right.
Thanksgiving. You better
Not
just
even
sit in your
leftovers.
fucking room and eat some damn Stouffer's lasagna or some shit and shut the fuck up.
Need y'all to hit subscribe, especially if you disagree with what we're about to talk about, because I'd like to have it out with you in the comments like a petty son of a bitch. What up, though? Minivan Musician 87. I'm Don Verb, and you are?
That girl.
That girl. Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about Thanksgiving because it's coming up. And I was kind of looking up things on YouTube specifically about Thanksgiving because I was wanting to make like a traditional, well, not traditional, but based on the original Thanksgiving dinner, because it was very different from what we do now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was seeing a whole lot of stuff that is kind of that narrative that Thanksgiving more represents a negative.
Yeah.
And that even at the Plymouth Museum, a certain representative of natives in that area, a descendant, is getting to give a lot of information, a lot of history and whatnot. That's maybe, it could be accurate as far as big picture, but as far as the actual timing and everything around Thanksgiving, the summary that they're giving you is kind of incorrect. And there's several other videos that were just kind of like, you know, here's what was promised, blah, 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 based on this dinner. And then everybody got slaughtered.
Yeah.
The white man basically went back on his word and all this sort of thing. And realistically, that's not true. You know, it's been a whole lot of tearing down of holidays or discrediting them, just like, you know, certain monuments and stuff like that.
Everything's racist somehow.
Yeah. And with this, no. And I'm going to explain why. As far as the first Thanksgiving, well, it's not the first Thanksgiving. That's something that needs to be understood.
Mm-hmm.
This supposedly happened in 1610, the one that we base Thanksgiving on. There had been well over 100 years of Thanksgivings before that, specifically in the southeastern United States and places like Florida and Georgia, where natives and Europeans would get together and have 3 days of feast and thanking their gods, which were different, but they still came together in order to give thanks for the crops and all of that kind of stuff. And there was games involved and religious readings, and it was just a big party for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always peace at these parties. Now, the one in 1610, first thing you have to realize is that the Pilgrims were depleted, or I don't know if you'd still refer to these guys as Pilgrims. You'd be more specific, call them Puritans, I believe, but they were depleted to 50 people. The natives in the area were roughly around 100. And the way this started off was natives saw the Europeans basically practicing with their muskets. And when they approached and asked, why are you doing this? Is this a threat? The answer was basically yes, we're going to wipe you out. And it was based on some kind of conflict that they were having at the time. But leading up to that, there were years of peaceful trading, and that's all based on finding of ancient artifacts side by side. It was reasonably peaceful. This dinner was organized, but it ended up being the whole 3 days. There's a big feast and all the other stuff that I mentioned before. They agreed to 75 years of peace.
Yeah.
They actually achieved 50 years of peace. The narrative kind of leads you to this outcome that immediately after this, it was all like a double cross and this horrible thing happened. And no, there is 50 years of peace. So the negativity surrounding Thanksgiving is kind of ridiculous. Even if you look at the wrongful treating of natives, well, for one, those, you know, so-called Europeans, Americans who did what they did to Native Americans based on whatever, weren't direct descendants of these pilgrims necessarily. There's no tie-in between these people and those.
Right.
Just because they have lighter colored skin does not mean they're the same people.
Yeah, well.
You know, the Irish mob is not responsible for what the Italian mob did unless they did it together just because they have lighter skin.
Yeah.
Just like a Jamaican is not responsible for what a Haitian does just because they have darker skin.
Right.
It's a silly thought. So basically, that's where I'm at with Thanksgiving. I actually do feel like more of the thanking of God should be represented in it. But I think that about Christmas and stuff too. So that's just me. But as far as it goes, you have this one holiday where families come together, whether you like all of them or not.
You focus on what you're grateful for from the last year.
Right, and there's no pressure for this.
Gifts.
Yeah, the gifts and the finances and everything around it.
You get together, you eat good food, you watch football, say some prayers if you're into that.
And yeah, that's pretty much it.
About it.
Yeah, this year you get a 4-day weekend. I mean, if you want to undo all that stuff, whatever. But stop tying a near genocide in with this particular holiday because the two have nothing to do with each other.
You always tie in some like horrible negative thing with like this one positive day. It's like we have, like 364, negative days a year, I mean, even Christmas is negative for a lot of people when it shouldn't be.
Yeah, can we just have one?
Like, can we have one that's not negative?
That's why I like Halloween.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing, to some Christians it's offensive,
I mean,
but
it's literally...
there's nothing political about it.
One day that, like, everyone's like, oh, you should be thankful for stuff all year. Okay, well, face it, we aren't. Okay.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with focusing on it for one day.
So, like, one day it's supposed to be about being grateful and focusing on the positive things, but let's fuck that all up.
Right.
Like everything else.
And give it a negative vibe.
And let's demonize people who want to celebrate it now. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of, if you're going to take it to... I don't want to celebrate that because a white man did this to the natives.
Well, then don't celebrate fucking anything, I guess.
Well, it also means that you are being that it's not the same people necessarily, that means that you are viewing everyone white as the enemy.
Yep, which a lot of people do.
And a lot of it's their own kind.
Mm-hmm.
That's the funniest part about it. Funny in a depressing way.
Yeah.
We need as much gratefulness as we can get right now because we're heading toward something worse financially than I won't get into specifics, but it's been bad enough low-key. It's about to get really bad. A lot of pushing down on our freedoms, all that kind of stuff, maybe more division than ever, even though I've been seeing people from both sides agreeing on a certain thing, which is beautiful. But some of them are already too far into it. They've already gotten 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 of them.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we need, the positivity and a little bit of patriotism.
Yeah.
Because if you look at this, it's Europeans coming here, and yes, there's fighting back and forth. But like I was saying earlier, I'm always having to draw an analogy to try to get through to people. We kind of glorify turf wars. Mm-hmm. Between different mob families and gangs and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to and even between the, what's the movie that's based on old New York? With the Butcher and Gangs of New York.
Gangs of New York.
Yeah, we glorify that because it's both white people.
Yeah.
But we can't glorify the fact that these two groups of people at one point in time fought against each other and then actually had peace for quite some time. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can tell the rest of the story after that, but you got to be specific. We live near the Lost Colony. Mm-hmm. And there's even been like a ruling in Supreme Court that a certain group of people are descendants of that Lost Colony, basically ending up amongst natives and kind of...
they bred with each other.
Yeah, I was going to say breeding, but I was trying to, like, what's the more human word?
Mating. I don't know.
No, that's even more. Whatever. But producing offspring,
Yeah, they
copulating,
and they
fornicating,
repopulated, and
yeah,
whatever.
but yeah, because they are native, but they have blue eyes and blah blah blah, and then there's the whole Virginia Dare and first European born in America. These people kind of stuck together a lot of the time to survive. Other times they fought over land and resources. And when you're starving to death, that was something else I wanted to put in perspective. At this first dinner, like I said, it was close to 100 natives. It was 50 Europeans. The Europeans had been double that size, well, a little less than a year before that. When the winter came, it wiped out half of them.
Yeah.
They were down to 4 women. I can only imagine what the lives of those 4 women were like.
I'm sure very horrific.
Yeah, probably pretty bad. But, yeah, so you had a depleted population. And to me, it's a miracle that they got along at all after that, because when you're that desperate,
oh yeah, you're gonna do anything.
You're starving to death. You know, you've lost half your population. It don't look good to get much further. You're heading into the winter. You know, it's already pretty bad in that region in November, but you're heading to the winter. And you guys should do some research on, you know, like I said, there was, you know, well over 100 years of Thanksgivings leading up to this. This was the one that was pushed in the 1830s to be made into a holiday, and then Abraham Lincoln made it a holiday. Maybe as a real gesture, maybe as a political thing. Doesn't really matter, because here we are with it and fighting over it.
Yeah, like everything else.
Yeah, you know, it's like I talked briefly about Columbus Day in one of the pods, and how that's not really ever been about Christopher Columbus. In fact, the Italians at the time didn't want it to be about that. But that day was given to them to pacify them for a mass lynching.
Yeah.
There you have it. Do some research. I know you want something to be mad about. The war of basically morality is happening right now.
Be mad about that, please.
Don't worry, we're going deep into it. You'll get mad at some point. That'll be your generation's war.
Yep.
Pretty much guaranteed. It may be one that nobody comes back from. Who knows? I understand that people want causes. Maybe some of them actually, you know, sympathize. Maybe some are actual natives that just don't like the fact that it symbolizes peace when there wasn't a lot of it. Well, then you can't represent peace amongst different groups of natives either. Because if you look at a time-lapse map of the territories of different native tribes over a period of a couple 100 years, it changes more than anywhere that Europeans ventured to.
Yeah.
Because it was constant warring. Keep that in mind. It's gone on since the beginning of time that man's need to expand and all of that causes there to be fighting. But in this instance, it was 50 years of peace. They didn't reach the 75 that they agreed to, but I think it's amazing that they reached 50.
Yeah.
I mean, what the Bloods and Crips last,
I was just
like
gonna
a week.
say, man, I mean, you think of peace treaties, and it's like, you always think of that picture of the red and blue bandana tied together. How fucking long did that one last?
Yeah, that lasted like a couple months when they were mad about the Rodney King thing, I believe. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's when there's something to be mad about, people get to get, just like 9/11, there's patriotism, and then boom.
Yeah, look at us now.
After a little while, shit, I mean, it happened quicker
Way
than that,
quicker.
but it's gotten like way worse. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind and enjoy Thanksgiving. Maybe work some seafood in your Thanksgiving dinner. The amount, man, when you read up on just the natural resources and stuff of that time, you know, they basically wrote back to Europe about how, you know, there were so many fish in the streams that you could not see any empty space in the water. It was just wall-to-wall fish. Like, there was just lobster in abundance, huge ones too, ones that don't exist anymore because we liked eating them so much. I mean, you know, like 50-pound lobsters. You definitely want to work some kind of seafood. I'm going to do like a lobster tail or something. Yeah, there was other stuff too. Pumpkin, they ate a lot of pumpkin. You know, one woman writes that there is probably wild turkey, but pretty much everyone else says that isn't true. More than likely, like geese or the thing that they eat ducks. Yeah. We had duck, like, what was it, last year, I think? It was very tasty. I shouldn't say we.
Yeah, I don't eat that
She
shit.
doesn't eat any meat, so there's that. Yeah, so I mean, just look up what was eaten then. Pretty interesting, and it might give a little more life to your Thanksgiving, assuming that you celebrate it.
I'm sure most people still do, you know.
Because they like food,
Go with
they like football.
Go with your traditions. Continue that shit so that these kids can have something, because they don't have a lot of normalcy that we had.
No,
when
they
we were
don't.
kids. So like, continue with those traditions. Don't let dumb shit or thinking that you have to follow the crowd of people being pissed about dumb shit deter you from continuing something that's always been a positive. The only thing negative that has ever come out of any Thanksgiving celebration amongst families is maybe some families fighting or someone getting drunk at the fucking table and getting pissed at the other uncle or some shit.
Right.
That's it.
I would just say that, you know, if you think you may want to be mad about it, do some research. If you're still mad after the research, fine. You know, if the positive you read doesn't, you know, overshadow the negative that you've seen after it, well then fine.
And
but
if
at least
you still want to
learn.
be mad about the shit, you are not allowed to eat any motherfucking pumpkin pie or anything good from
Right.
Thanksgiving. You better
Not
just
even
sit in your
leftovers.
fucking room and eat some damn Stouffer's lasagna or some shit and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, no stuffing. You get no stuffing. I'm gonna make the
No
corn
rolls, no
stuffing
stuffing, no
again.
turkey, no pie, no pink stuff, none of that shit.
Pink stuff. It's called ambrosia.
I know what it's called.